Hello, and welcome to today's episode of Back to the City. I'm Simon Calder. I'm going to be blinking for some of this episode because my contact lens just broke in my eye. So if it looks like I'm winking, that's the official story, my contact lens related. Today I'm joined by all 7 members of DRUZY. Welcome, everybody.
Hi,
Hello.
thanks for having us.
Yeah, and they're here to talk about their debut record, Kiddie Pool.
Yes.
I love that it's called Kiddie Pool. I love that the debut record is called Kiddie Pool. That's lovely.
Appreciate
Yeah. Well, there'll be lots to appreciate throughout this episode. I appreciate the fact that you're playing at the Back to the City showcase for
Yes, very
this month.
excited for that. Yeah.
Final Thursday, as it always is, and this time it is Back to the City's cusp of spring, slightly wishful thinking, cusp of spring smorgasbord. And it's a slightly more eclectic bill than normal on purpose to celebrate the diversity of the Twin Cities music scene. By the end of the next month, we'll be in spring. So we'll have Red Eye Ruby on that bill as well. And also, yeah, Me Too, and Gambler's Daughter and Partition. Final Thursday of this month at Mortimers. So let's dive into the records. And I really love the final sentence in the bio. I wonder who wrote this. DRUZY creates music that speaks deeply to the troubled human consciousness in a manner that is both charmingly whimsical and brutally raw. And I think that's true. So we're going to explore those kind of polarities and how they come together. Who is responsible for that?
It's me.
Good. Yeah, good job. The lyricist.
Yes.
Makes sense.
English major.
Yeah. I went to college for 4 years to write that sentence.
Yeah, exactly. But it was worth it.
Nerd.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Oh, yes.
Okay, well let's dive in. The opening song on the record is called "Pretty Baby," and I love how right from the get-go, I'm tired all the time, just getting by all the time. There's a sense in which I feel that throughout the record, there's a kind of tiredness with the idea of just getting by, and there's a kind of pushing to explore something beyond what's known. For example, in Bird of Paradise, there's this kind of exploration and growth is going to happen through going just beyond the kind of periphery. So there's different ways in which that's happening, though, I think, throughout the record, and that's what I think it would be fun to explore today.
Yeah, absolutely. I like that interpretation a lot.
Yeah, here we go. Let's test that hypothesis.
Sure, let's get in.
Oh yeah, and actually the second lyric, the second line in Pretty Baby, say I'm destructive by design, but not when I'm with you. So there's this kind of another thing that we're on the brink of, not just spring, we're on the brink of like wholeness, I think. So there's this destructive by design, and there are moments where it seems to be we're on a track that could potentially be self-destructive, or there's a reference again in Bird of Paradise to having a hot, wet taste of sin. Yes, so we're in the basement and we're drinking. The basement, of course, which is where the 7-piece band formed.
Yep.
So there's this kind of embracing of the darkness, and it's like slightly debauched, and yet there's this leaning into wholeness. Like there's a sense that it's not wrong, actually. It's not bad to be doing that. This is the way into like integration and wholeness. So. Say I'm destructive by design, but not when I'm with you. There's this sense that if we get the right configuration, then we discover wholeness and health and well-being. Say I'm destructive by design. Is that focus that I'm discovering there by design?
Yeah, that kind of line and Pretty Baby in general, kind of the whole record in general, it's like you're saying, it's a lot about mental illness and really struggling with that.
And mental health.
Yeah, just mental health in general, and how there's so many different ways of coping with it, some of which are very destructive and some of which are more fun, like being with your friends and having these parties. So it's a lot of kind of looking at it that way, and as the lyricist, how I get through my day-to-day life. And a lot of it's super fun and a lot of it's hard.
Yeah. I love how, and that's the rawness. and also the whimsy.
Yeah, because it's also fun. There's a lot of like kind of jokes in the songs. It's parts that are supposed to be funny, but it's still just like very honest music that's like very close, you know, to home for me, and I think for a lot of other people too.
Integrating lots of parts.
I feel like if we don't look at like these hard things right in the face and are still able to kind of laugh at them,
Yeah.
it's like one of the best ways.
Yeah,
to,
exactly.
Levity,
to get
yeah.
through
That's what I
that.
was gonna
Yeah.
say is that like, you know, like we, at least you, like I say we, but you wrote the lyrics. You talk about like some of these darker subjects and a lot of the like these demons that a lot of us face, but it's in a way that like you like say it with a smile, and I feel like it makes it easier to confront, not just for yourself but also for like the people that are listening to the music.
Yeah. I really felt that at the VFW show where I met most of you, and you even from the stage said if anyone needs to talk, then please do come to the band. I love how like fully integrated into what the band is and what the band represents. That is, you know, that integrity, that authenticity.
Yeah, I know how hard it can be to feel like you're alone and you have nobody to talk to.
Yeah.
And I just want to be there and open that up to people, like if they have something they want to talk about
Yeah.
at the shows or in general. And I've had a lot of people come and talk to me about the stuff that they're going through after seeing our shows, which is like really beautiful to be able to give someone a space to do that where they maybe usually wouldn't.
Yes, I mean seriously, thank you for doing that service, because that's what it actually is. Yeah. There are some songs like Bummer that explore romantic love and the yearning for wholeness through romantic love in particular. There's the temporary, perhaps just temporary absence of the loved person. Yeah, let's focus on that for a moment. What's going on with Bummer?
Bummer is such a funny song. I wrote it years ago after an experience I had where I was just so in love with this one classmate in college. Like
Also studying English?
Yes, yep. I feel like it was the only time I've ever like really wanted somebody and couldn't like have it, which is, you know, whatever.
Must be hard.
Yeah, must be hard. One time. So of course I was very sad about it. I wasn't used to, you know, not getting what I wanted. But it was also just,
Which is still the case.
Which is still the case. If you're out there, I'm not going to say names, but so that one's for you. But it was just that song. I was never super upset. It was all, that's like one, that one is particularly whimsical.
Yeah.
It was always just kind of funny to me because it wasn't a relationship that would have gone anywhere, but it was still something that I wanted, and I think the fact that I couldn't have it was what really like drove me to write that song.
Yeah.
Like if it had happened, I probably like wouldn't have ever, you know, had such
died.
strong feelings about it.
Yeah, and this song wouldn't exist.
Right.
And there's a certain type of awareness that's in the song, like in the lyric, just give me a chance to let you know how fun a girl like me can be. It kind of forces a different type of self-awareness. That, you know, that's a good side of this lack of reciprocity in that kind of this unrequited love.
Yeah.
It makes you realize things that are great and other things about yourself and the fun that you realize I'm fun.
Yeah. I'm fun.
Hello.
Like, why don't you want to be with me? Like, come on.
fun.
I'm so fun.
So yeah, let's focus on. So Ghosty, you're the producer. You do production, yeah. So with that song, how and the band as a whole, like how did that song evolve from? Because it's a relatively early song, yeah.
Right.
From a song that Megan had to a song that the band has.
Yeah. So yeah, Megan started writing songs by herself, and then before we had the band, she and I started working together and kind of expanding and just like having me produce for her and writing songs that way. You know, we were just doing like these duo sets, and mainly just at the parties that we were throwing. And
The basement parties.
Yeah,
Where the kids want to go and make out.
Yes.
Yeah. Like absolutely, that is where we found our inspiration
Yeah.
to like do this
Yeah.
is providing that atmosphere for people.
Which is a nice segue to basement.
Yes.
Yeah. It's almost like it's celebrating. I mean, it is celebrating
It
the genesis of the
absolutely
band,
is.
yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. The sense of fun and community that the song is kind of about is definitely like audible in in the song. So let's talk a bit about the production of that song and how that transformed from. Is that the same method? Just you alone?
It was actually, I came with the beat first, and this was even before the band had fully formed.
Sure.
I came with the beat, and Megan wrote the song to it. I named the beat Basements, and Megan was like, I really like that, and so that's like the song ended up being about that, just because.
That's how it sounded, and
right.
Yeah.
Well, and the like, I don't want to speak for you. I feel like I can.
You can.
But like throwing these parties was more than just like throwing a party. It was a way to like kind of test the waters to see how to like generate that excitement with people and
chemistry experiment.
Yeah, and make sure.
Yeah, I love that.
How to get people excited. Yeah, and so I think we were just kind of subconsciously on the same page with that, with me naming the beat that, and then Megan writing the lyrics about it.
Yeah.
And then it just so happens to be true that those lyrics are also about how we all feel together.
Yeah. I love that awareness about what's going on through the creation of music and the bringing of people together, through like the band and then the audience, and then like I said, with the performance, with that awareness, like what better time than in that context with the music bringing everyone together to highlight the not aloneness of each person there.
Right.
It's existentially extremely important and significant what's going on there.
And it's kind of laid out plain for everybody as well, because it's easier to believe when someone's telling you this and you're actually around all of these people. You can look around and see that you're actually not alone.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely. So let's move on to Bird of Paradise. This is interesting. Like again, chemistry experiments. I like the explicit reference of serotonin. What is the significance of kind of owning this identity of being, at least within this song, at least in these moments, the bird of prey? I'm a bird-bodied messenger of death, a siren singing in the ocean. It's an important moment, I think, in the record.
Yeah.
What's the significance of owning that identity?
The idea for that hook came from, I was reading about like sirens, mermaids that sing and lure people in, and you think that they're supposed to be very beautiful, but they were actually like these like terrifying bird-like creatures.
Yeah, luring people to their destruction.
Right, luring sailors to their death.
Yeah.
And I really liked just the imagery of that.
It's an interesting kind of mirror image to say I'm destructive by design, and then on the other hand, with this taking on the role, like embracing this identity of the siren, there is leading others to, like, within this myth, to destruction by design.
Yeah. That one is almost, I don't know, I took it for myself as almost a cautionary tale. In all honesty, like, I've heard a lot of people that have like come into my life and pushed them away, and that song, that line, just really resonated with me in the sense of like, I do hold people at an arm's length, and that song kind of highlights my feelings towards that.
Absolutely.
Because of past experiences.
Yeah, and that's exactly the, this quote again, speaking deeply to the troubled human consciousness in a manner that is both charmingly whimsical. It's charmingly whimsical to like play the siren and also brutally raw. Like there's something really astute about that kind of reading of like interpersonal dynamics in that song. It's an important song, I think.
I think that song in particular, you've had me thinking since you mentioned it, the idea of like the feeling of something debauched, but it turns out that it's pushing towards wholeness.
Yeah.
From my personal growth in the last few years, I've met so many people who are seeking that wholeness, and debauchery, coping with substances and relationships is such a common way to find it.
Yeah.
The fact that we've pushed through the dark aspects of that and found this group of people who can be so honest while still embracing the soul of the revel and of the debauchery has been a life-changing experience for me.
Absolutely.
But it's also, I think it's a siren song. Like, people see it from the outside, and they want it. They want what it seems like it is. They want the revel. They want to be able to live in the party, not realizing that you have to, if you want to actually find wholeness through this and not just stick a Band-Aid on whatever's hurting you, you have to let go of your ego, otherwise you will be brought to your destruction.
Interesting.
And so
yeah, true.
That's a lot of what I've taken away from Megan's writing in particular, and getting to know everyone in this band over the last few years.
Fuckers.
Can't stand any of you.
We're enjoying being able to say that.
Absolutely.
Had to make sure we could.
Yeah.
That's why we put Dante on the mic.
Yeah, that's a beautiful way to put it.
That really is.
So hard for me to like sometimes look inwards at my own music and then explain what it means.
Yeah.
So hearing you say that, like that is exactly what it means. So thank you for being so eloquent with that.
There's a focus on letting go there, persuading the ego to just like step aside for a bit
that's exactly
and letting
right.
go. And I feel like that's a nice second turn to dumpster diving. What is the significance of that image?
Of the dumpster diving.
Yeah, for things that never last.
Yeah, in the song when I wrote this, I was feeling very lonely and kind of estranged.
Yeah.
And I felt like I was picking through my brain at the time and like looking at all these memories of things that were so at one point and then were just tossed aside and didn't matter. And that image of like looking at all of the things in a dumpster that you've thrown away but they still make up a part of you, I feel like was very important to me, especially when I was feeling very weird at that time that I wrote that song. So I was just trying to like feel less lonely and pick up these pieces of my identity and really remember who I was.
Yeah. So we have all of these different parts, and whereas like right now we've got the band and we have this sense of like the disparate parts being integrated in a way that couldn't really have been planned or preempted, but maybe in dumpster diving we're just aware of these parts and it seems that they can't fit together. It's a really interesting way of kind of capturing that moment where there isn't yet the coherence.
Right. Yeah, that song is really about identity and finding your own identity. And it was me figuring out who I don't want to be and who I do want to be.
Yeah.
That's the statement of finding coherence in all these disparate parts that shouldn't have come together, I think resonates with how I feel about that song musically in particular. I mean, with a 7-piece band and with the way that we write songs, there's a lot of kind of like clicking the Legos of the parts into place. But with that song in particular, it feels like a stack sometimes when I think about it. Everyone's doing a lot of very busy stuff. And for having 7 people each doing like a busy, like kind of self-involved part, seems like it wouldn't work, but then in the context of the greater piece, it actually kind of like it's a beautiful cluttered coherence, I guess.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I like that. This recurring, which is the beauty in what seems like it couldn't. These parts wouldn't go together, and yet they do. Actually, the diversity that we were talking about at the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that we're celebrating with the show.
Oh, right on.
Yeah. Lovely. I love how that song ends too, with the round and the interweaving vocal parts, and in particular, who do I want to be? Who do I not want to be? I don't want to be one of those girls, but I am one of those girls. Make your toes curl. I wanted to be one of those girls good enough to rule her own world. That's really interesting, thinking about the integration and the fragmentation. Like, I want to be good enough to make all of this make sense and rule it internally, but I feel in this moment that I am not that. Instead, I'm one of those girls pre-gaming in the parking lot. I'd like to be that one. What's wrong with that one? You don't want it to be the MO.
Right. Because it is whimsical and it is fun, and it is fun pre-gaming in a parking lot.
Yeah.
But not all the time.
Yeah, and it's not nice. It's not. It doesn't feel good to have a head full of thoughts that she is not enough. And I think my favorite moment on the record is when we shift from that into Feel Like This. What a beautiful transition. We're at one moment we're pre-gaming alone in the parking lot, and we're feeling that we're designed for. That we're distracted by design, and then all of a sudden, we're whole.
Yeah.
And we feel like this, we feel whole, or relatively whole at least.
Yeah, no, in the right direction.
Yeah, exactly. And we feel part of a bigger whole.
Yeah.
We feel, part of the band, part of the music community, and then there's just a celebration of that. So let's talk a bit about it's a beautiful end to the record and to this conversation, I think. We'll have a lot to say about it.
Yeah.
It's got quite a lot of likes, views on SoundCloud.
Yeah.
We recognize
The only
it.
one.
Oh,
So it
gosh.
warrants lots of attention. Why is the song called Feel Like This?
I think the way I interpret that song, especially because when we first started playing it as a band, most of us couldn't fucking keep from crying on stage.
Yeah, I was crying when I was taking my notes on the lyrics in the coffee shop at the Bad Waitress.
Yeah.
I was.
Oh.
That's probably where my contact lens broke.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Been conditioned. But I take it as, one day you're gonna feel like this, of like the like aspect of family that I feel around everybody in this group.
Yeah.
Is that one day you're gonna feel like you have your own circle of people and you have your community, and that's what I take away from it. And I think that that's what, from the people that have talked to us after hearing the song at our shows and whatnot, like that's what they feel, is they feel welcomed into something after hearing that. And I think that's
They feel
really
integrated.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they feel like they've been invited to like kind of open up and feel what they've been pushing down.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you want to answer?
Yeah, I
it's
think
good when you
that's,
speak.
that
I
last
like it.
thing that you said in particular is what I think about that song, in that it's not only like on the surface, it's a, like you say, a letter to your former self, where you're saying, things will be better one day, you will feel like this, but also that like, hey, you listening, feel, don't forget to do that. Don't forget to let it out, and like understand that there's other people who want to hear about it and who have been through it as well, or maybe are in the shit with you. So like, yeah, and that's like that invitation that Megan always opens up to at the end of every show, I think is really like, it punctuates it in like a really beautiful way as well. It kind of like any feeling that an audience member might have of like, oh wow, I really feel connected and like I'm included right now, and that kind of seals the deal that like that's not in your head, like that's what we want you to.
Yeah, it's in the heart.
Yeah.
I think it also serves, sorry to build onto that even more, but I think you mentioned this a little bit, but it like also kind of serves as a cautionary tale, I think, because the tense that you're in when you're singing it is like you've arrived on the other side, but saying like one day you're gonna feel like this is also like shit is going to get hard if it's not hard right now. So just like understand that that's gonna happen, and but you will come out on the other side.
Yeah. I like the integration of the past and the present in that sentence, because it starts as an address to the past self, but then like this, that we're suddenly grounded in the present. And your emphasis, what anchors us and provides the comfort, is just the feeling, which is accessible to everyone, and connection, use the word connection. So the connection with all the parts and the connection with all the other parts externally, and the sense of the rightness of that, like everyone can feel that. It's not like an intellectual, like philosophical solution to the problem of existence. It's just feeling everything.
And the repetition, I think, of that line helps to dissolve the any barriers of tense, of time and stuff. It helps you to like really drive it home of that it's not about thinking about it in a specific way, it's just about feeling it and opening up.
And break down the obstinance that people might be feeling or having towards actually having their feelings and letting themselves
because it can be challenging, for sure.
Yeah, and it redeems the past too. The past self, which is actually at the end of the previous song, wanting to be someone other than she is, and not able to put everything together. It's like suddenly we have this pivot, and we're addressing that past self and saying, you're gonna waste a little time getting wasted, but in retrospect, I don't regret. So what seemed like it was sinful and wrong, missing the mark, actually, there's a sense in which that too, all of that, everything, comes together.
doing
Yeah.
the parts, learning from every experience.
Yeah.
Not just the good ones, not just the bad ones.
Yeah. We used to say what's good or bad.
Turn those L's into lessons.
Yes. Yeah.
What?
Hashtag.
Hashtag,
Turn
yeah.
those L's into lessons.
More inspirational quotes follow Dudes Coasty.
What are the L's before their lessons?
Losses.
Losses. Turn those losses into lessons. It's interesting how lies come up in both of those final songs. They say red lips always lie, but I'm here to tell you it's green eyes, back in Dumpster Diving. And then in Feel Like This, the past self must be terrified of all their own lies. So when it feels like everything is fragmented, that we have to, we have a facade, which involves, some manipulation of, how one is seen, and, in other words, like some lying or some not full truth, and then here, part of what's so beautiful about the way in which this record ends is that there's no need to lie. There's this radical acceptance of everything, and radical, self-love, nothing hidden, including like, oh yeah, I was being like a siren here, and that's like that's all part of it, and that's love.
Yeah, speaking to that rawness.
Yeah. That's so important. And the whole band is doing a service there. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you for really diving deep like that. I didn't know what to expect in this interview. I thought it was going to be some questions about how'd you meet, where the band come from. And instead we've really deep dive into the nature of love and radical self-love.
And healing.
Healing, yeah.
Yeah, and you made me think about aspects of the music that I hadn't even thought of before.
I feel like I understand my own lyrics better now. So thank you.
We felt into it.
Yeah,
You'll be in the special
fabulous.
thanks on the next album.
Oh my gosh, most definitely.
So if we were in the kiddie pool, we'll be in the deep end next time.
Oh. We'll talk about it, guys. We'll talk about it. We're like in that middle length.
Next to the shallow end.
Adult swim.
I prefer the term big boy pool.
Oh my
There
goodness.
should be that.
I like it, yeah.
That could actually be really good. You heard it here first.
I did come up with the first name, so.
That's true.
Wow.
I had to figure out for that one, but I was there in the kiddie pool when
True.
it
It was, the name came from a night of debaucherous
Debauchery.
skinny dipping in a kiddie pool, involving trespassing and nudity and all the
Even
other
better than
crimes.
dumpster diving, or like
Yeah.
along the same.
He threw up in the kiddie pool.
No, he didn't.
In the lake. It was in the lake.
More respect.
It was on the
The
slide.
world's gonna know, Dante.
Oh, it was the tequila worm.
That must have been it.
Yeah.
Wow.
You do.
It's all coming
You
together.
do have a lot of respect. I have more respect. It's true. I can tell.
Tequila worm.
Yeah, that's awesome.
We
Okay.
have fun.
We all have fun. We always have fun. Different types of fun.
We have too much fun.
It seems like it until suddenly you're performing Feel Like This again.
true.
Right.
And then it's like, oh, it wasn't actually excessive.
Yeah.
Right.
It was fine.
Yeah, that's very true.
Otherwise, I wouldn't feel exactly like this.
Yeah.
And
It's
I like
all a
this feeling.
chemistry experiment.
All a
Good,
chemistry
yeah.
experiment.
All of our rowdiness. Is
Thank you for bringing your chemistry experiment both here, and it was a successful chemistry experiment, I think.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
You're very welcome. And then also to Mortimers. And little did I know, when I decided to put the bill together, which was celebrating the diversity and like trying to integrate diverse parts of the Minneapolis music scene to celebrate shifting to spring. What a very fitting band with songs that are about integration,
Yeah.
celebrating it.
Yeah.
Perfect, beautiful.
You did good.
We did good.
We did good.
Radical inclusion.
Yeah,
Excellent.
I love that.
Hooray.